In the icy silence of Greenland, a new economic storm is rising, and its shockwaves are racing straight toward America's fragile financial future. In early 2026, whispers inside Washington turned into urgent meetings, as leaked reports revealed secret discussions about imposing strategic tariffs tied to Greenland's rare earth minerals and Arctic trade routes. These talks began after U.S. intelligence confirmed that China and Russia were rapidly expanding their influence across Greenland's ports, mines, and undersea cable networks. Behind closed doors, Treasury officials warned that any sudden tariff shock could collide with America's exploding national debt, now crossing an unimaginable $38 trillion. That number is so large that most Americans cannot truly picture it, yet it silently dictates the fate of their taxes, jobs, savings, and future prosperity. To understand how the world reached this breaking point, we must travel back to the financial earthquakes of 2008, when the collapse of Lehman Brothers triggered the largest rescue operation in modern history. The U.S. government poured trillions into stabilizing banks, automakers like General Motors, and insurance giant AIG, planting the first seeds of a debt spiral that would only grow deeper. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, when Congress unleashed massive stimulus packages, sending checks to households, bailing out airlines, and propping up entire industries to prevent economic collapse. By 2021, under President Joe Biden, spending surged on infrastructure, green energy, and social programs, pushing deficits higher even as interest rates hovered near zero. For a brief moment, it seemed manageable, because cheap borrowing made debt feel painless and almost invisible. That illusion shattered in 2022, when inflation roared back with a vengeance, forcing Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to launch the fastest rate hiking cycle in 4 decades. Suddenly, every new dollar of debt became drastically more expensive to service, turning America's balance sheet into a ticking financial time bomb. By 2024, interest payments alone began to rival defense spending, as Wall Street banks like JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs warned of a looming fiscal reckoning. Meanwhile, the Arctic was rapidly transforming from a frozen frontier into a geopolitical goldmine, with Greenland holding vast reserves of rare earth elements essential for electric vehicles, military systems, and artificial intelligence hardware. Companies like Tesla, Nvidia, and Lockheed Martin increasingly depended on these materials, making Greenland a strategic prize in the global power race. China had already invested heavily through state-backed firms, building infrastructure and securing long-term supply contracts that alarmed U.S. defense planners. In response, American policymakers explored tariffs and trade controls aimed at reshaping Arctic commerce, hoping to choke off rival influence while strengthening domestic supply chains. Yet every proposed tariff carried a hidden cost, threatening higher prices, trade retaliation, and fresh inflationary pressure at home. For households already struggling with elevated mortgage rates, soaring rents, and stubborn grocery bills, this was the last thing they needed. Inside the White House Situation Room, economic advisors presented grim scenarios showing how even modest tariff escalations could ripple through supply chains and ignite market panic. Bond investors, who financed the nation's debt, began demanding higher yields, sensing growing risk in Washington's fiscal path. The result was a vicious cycle, where higher interest rates inflated debt costs, forcing more borrowing, which in turn pushed rates even higher. By mid-2025, America stood on the edge of a dangerous financial feedback loop. That was when Greenland entered the spotlight as a potential pressure valve and a perilous gamble at the same time. Supporters argued that assertive tariff policy could protect strategic industries, create jobs, and reduce reliance on hostile suppliers. Critics countered that such moves would only accelerate inflation, weaken the dollar, and destabilize already fragile global markets. The stakes could not have been higher, because the US dollar remains the backbone of international finance, and any loss of confidence could trigger worldwide shockwaves. History offers chilling warnings, from the 1970s inflation crisis to the debt spirals that crushed emerging markets in the 1990s. Even great powers are not immune to the laws of arithmetic, and debt eventually demands payment. As treasury auctions grew more volatile, analysts at BlackRock and Vanguard quietly adjusted portfolios, hedging against currency and rate risk. Gold prices surged, Bitcoin regained momentum, and safe haven assets signaled rising anxiety across financial markets. In ordinary homes, families cut back on travel, delayed major purchases, and leaned on credit cards to bridge widening budget gaps. Small businesses faced tightening credit, while state governments braced for shrinking federal support. Through it all, the question hung heavy in the air. Could America grow its way out of this debt trap, or was a painful reckoning inevitable? Some economists pointed to innovation, artificial intelligence, and productivity booms as potential saviors. Others warned that without serious fiscal reform, even rapid growth would fail to outrun compounding interest obligations. The debate intensified as election campaigns heated up, turning budgets and tariffs into political weapons. Voters were promised prosperity, security, and stability, yet the underlying numbers painted a far more precarious picture. Meanwhile, in Greenland, miners drilled deeper, ice melted faster, and shipping lanes opened wider, transforming the Arctic into a new economic frontier. Every cargo ship leaving its ports symbolized both opportunity and risk for the United States. Each tariff proposal became a potential trigger for market turbulence and diplomatic confrontation. By early 2026, the debt clock in New York ticked past $38 trillion, flashing like a warning beacon to the world. In quiet moments, even seasoned policymakers admitted they had never seen the fiscal landscape this fragile. The choices ahead would shape not only the next election cycle, but the next generation's standard of living. Lessons from history made one truth painfully clear: that debt-fueled growth can create dazzling booms, but it always carries the seeds of devastating busts. Financial resilience requires discipline, transparency, and long-term planning, not just short-term political victories. For investors, diversification, risk management, and inflation protection have become essential survival tools. For households, budgeting, emergency savings, and debt reduction are no longer optional, but critical defenses against uncertainty. For leaders, courage to make unpopular fiscal decisions may be the only path to lasting stability. Because once confidence erodes, rebuilding trust in markets and currencies can take decades. Greenland's tariffs may seem distant and technical, yet they sit at the heart of a much larger story about power, debt, and destiny. America stands at a crossroads, where strategic ambition collides with financial reality. One road leads to disciplined reform, sustainable growth, and renewed global leadership. The other risks deeper debt, higher inflation, and a slow erosion of economic dominance. Every policy choice, every budget vote, and every trade decision nudges the nation closer to one of these futures. This is not merely a debate among economists or politicians, but a defining chapter in the American story. From Wall Street trading floors to kitchen tables in small towns, the consequences will be felt everywhere. The clock is ticking, the numbers are rising, and the margin for error is shrinking. History will judge how this moment was handled and whether wisdom prevailed over convenience. Because in the end, debt is not just a statistic, it is a promise made to the future. A promise that someone, someday, must keep. And as Greenland's icy winds carry whispers of tariffs and transformation, America must decide what kind of financial legacy it will leave behind. Will it choose courage, reform, and responsibility? Or will it gamble on delay, denial, and ever-growing debt? The fate of the dollar, the stability of global markets, and the security of millions of families hang in the balance. This is the quiet crisis unfolding beneath the headlines, a slow-moving storm gathering unstoppable force. And the world is watching closely. As the next chapter begins, one question remains: powerful, urgent, and unavoidable. Can America change course before the weight of $38 trillion finally pulls its economic future under